Hey, I'm Obi, and that's Ed, and we are here on Drinking from the Garden Hose, your favorite podcast. The charm is that we suck. Get us wherever you get your podcasts, be it Apple, Google, Amazon, or other services I had never heard of until I look at our stats. Ed, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Obi. Glad we could fit tonight's taping in so that we can keep our listeners satisfied with another episode dropping on Friday.
Absolutely. This episode is going to be about how hard it was to get this in. From my point of view, I've been watching that on social, and he'll give you all the details of what he's been doing, but I know he's not been around. And I've been doing my regular whatever it is I'm doing, out bike riding or practicing martial arts. And last night, my family had it. They were done with me. I'm never around. I'm the worst father ever. They're singing Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon and giving me the biggest guilt trip. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to get Ed in now, because if I try to leave the family for 10 minutes, they're going to start singing again. But I was able to successfully negotiate to get tonight in. Ed, you on the other hand, why haven't you been around?
Well, first I got to ask a question about Cats in the Cradle. Was your family singing the Harry Chapin version or the Ugly Kid Joe version?
My family wasn't really singing either version. I was hearing in my head the Harry Chapin version, but no, there was no actual singing because no one in my family can sing.
Oh, or do they even know the song?
They must know. Yeah, I would. My wife definitely knows the song. I'll double check and put it in the comments if I remember that the kids know the song.
Okay.
And obviously, the title of this one's going to be "The Pods in the Cradle." I mean, it's done. Boom, good.
Even though it has to be the Ugly Kid Joe version because that is more of a Gen Xer, whereas Harry Chapin's more of a baby boomer version, if you ask me.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's my thought. So you asked me where I was. So it's really interesting that your family is upset that you're not around. I was spending time with my family, and I'm not sure they wanted me around. So I think we have kind of different experiences the last week or so.
Absolutely. It sounds that way because, I mean, but you were happy to be around. I mean, you were sharing your daughter's exploits as she once again was lighting things up all over the tri-state or Northeast. So how's she not want you around? You take her to all the great places.
Yeah, so I snore. That's the biggest thing. I snore. And so when we go away on these trips, we have to share a room together. So the first leg of the trip, so it was a 2-leg trip. We went to Louisville, and then we went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the Louisville trip, my wife was on that leg of it, and we got a 1-bedroom suite at the Residence Inn. So we were able to take the bedroom, shut the door, and my daughter was out in the living room by herself and didn't partake in the snoring. But when we had to come home real quick, made a pit stop, and then turn around and jetted down to drove to Pennsylvania. As we get to Pennsylvania, my daughter looks at me in horror and says, "Oh my God, I forgot my sleep mask with headphones. I'm never going to be able to sleep with you tonight." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're snoring." And sure enough, she bitched and moaned the entire 2 days that we were there. And interestingly enough, if you have teenage daughters or teenage kids, the irony of the whole thing is when we got home and she was taking some stuff out of her suitcase, she found her sleep mask with headphones. So she had it the entire time.
I'm going to offer a cheap solution for this next time. I'm literally holding one in my hands. Not you can see, but nobody else can. Yeah, disposable earplugs. They are magnificent for those of you who have to sleep with snorers. They do a good job. If it's a real loud snorer, 32 decibels isn't enough. But for the most part, you can drown out those snorers, like my wife.
Interesting. So yeah, my daughter also is not a big fan of my swallowing. Apparently, I swallow. Apparently, apparently this is probably too much, but apparently when I burp, I don't know. I have this. I guess when I'm around her, I have this habit where I blow my burps. She doesn't like that. you know. I'm like, well, I don't want this. I don't. Yeah. You never done that, Obi? Like you burp and then you burp and then you exhale. That way, like let's say you burp hot dog, like you don't want that shit hanging around, right? So you just blow it, right? So the hot dog, so if I'm with my daughter and I burp hot dog, she's gonna get a whiff of it,
Yeah,
She
yeah. That's one of those things where you would have been better off being a boy dad, because I don't particularly do that one. On the other hand, I don't hold in my farts when it's just me and the boys. But yeah, when my son's girlfriend's around, no burping, no farting.
Well,
But
we know that you're a big fan of the son's girlfriend, so that's the thing. So, and then I'll tell you the other thing about, again, this is probably teenagers, but we're in Louisville, and again, this is my family not wanting to hang out with me, or my daughter in particular. We're in Louisville, and Churchill Downs is in Louisville, the home of the Kentucky Derby. And what sports fan is going to be in Louisville and not go to Churchill Downs? So of course, hey, let's go to Churchill Downs. Nope. She slept through the whole thing. She stayed back at the hotel, and me and the wife went and toured the racetrack. And interestingly enough, did you know the racetrack is 25 feet deep?
25 feet deep, meaning across with.
No, deep into the ground. So there's 25 feet of like sand, 75% sand, 20% dirt, and 5% clay, but 25 feet deep.
I did not know that.
Neither did I. That's why I'm sharing it.
I'm sure our audience is very happy to hear it. See, I get the exact opposite. I tried to go out last night alone, to go to the gym, lift a little bit, do comdo. My kid steals my equipment. He's like, hides the equipment. Why? Because he wants me to play Pokemon or something. Like, I've been watching these guys play Pokemon all day, and they're like, "You don't hang out with us, Dad." I spent the entire day with them, all day watching them play, and then I get attacked trying to leave and do something on my own because they don't want to do it, but God forbid I do it.
So are you? So you're like dead serious saying that your kids like are giving you crap for leaving the house?
Oh, I am dead serious. Then I came home, and all three of the people that live with me had something to say about it. Then this morning, all three of them had something to say about it. And despite the fact that my kids left today at 2:30 to go to their grandparents. Did they invite me along? No. Would I have gone? No, I was at work. But that's besides the point. They're off doing what they want. We know my son just went to Europe for 7 weeks alone, and I'm like, I try to leave my own house, and I get crap for it.
So let's go back to this, because you slipped some things in there at the beginning of this conversation that I just want to bring to light, and I want our audience to hear this, because I find great humor into what you slipped in there. You said at the beginning, I'm out living my life, bike riding, doing martial arts training. Like, our listeners, we don't have headshots on our podcast or anything, but you're like acting like you're the Adonis of the group here, and that you're out like going on 40-mile bike rides, and you're like an absent father. Like, come on, there's got to be other shit you're doing other than bike riding and martial arts training.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I told you I play Pokemon with these lovely children of mine.
Yeah, but what are you doing on your own? I'm telling you, it's not all bike rides and kung fu.
I also work out. Are you telling everyone I'm Adonis? I appreciate the pep talk about my.
Again, you're just trying to slip this in. So I work out. I do bike rides. I pick things up. I put them down. Come on, you're like out. I mean, not that you're out reading books. If anybody met you, they know you're not reading books. But I don't think you're out. I think you're out like watching a movie or something. You're always up. I mean, come on. It's not all physical activity, is it? Are you kidding me?
When I leave the house, it's either shopping with my wife or physical activity. I don't leave the house as much as I'd like to, though. I mean, the other thing I do, this one's great. One of our best listeners always talks about the show with me when we're out playing disc golf together. So, this will drop on Friday, and my brother will listen to the episode on Friday probably, and we'll talk about the episode and get feedback while we're throwing discs which of course is definitely not an Adonis sport in any way, shape, or form. But it's an outdoor activity.
It's a crunchy granola sport. So, first of all, I'm assuming you call ping pong table tennis the way you just called frisbee golf disc golf.
Oh no, ping pong is ping pong. What do you call frisbee golf? Frisbee golf, disc golf? It's the same. Call what you want.
It's frisbee golf. You're out playing frisbee with like some chains. You're trying to it's like sadomasochism frisbee.
I would call it frisbee golf, except when you see them and when you buy like a set at Dick's for $30, they don't look like frisbees. So you're like, oh, I guess, and they say disc golf on them, so you kind of get sucked into that. This isn't a frisbee; it's a disc.
Okay. Now, are you a stickler for the rules when you play disc golf?
I don't even know the rules.
All right. What about
No,
your brother? Does he know the rules?
better than me, and he's better than me at the game. But no, we're not real sticklers for the rules. No,
So
no,
do you have the complete set where you have your driver disc and you have your short disc and your putter disc, or do you just
I
use the whammo?
I use discs, but I have three that are all different types of drivers. Some curve more than others, but that's it. I don't have any putters. I
No putter.
call one my putter, but it's not a putter
Yeah.
according to the official
Rules.
designation on it. So no.
Okay. And when you're out disc golfing, do you meet people and do you talk about great courses that you've played, or do you just like ignore other people? Tell me the disc
On,
golf
on,
culture
on
because I
occasion,
think it's a bunch of guys. I think it's a bunch of guys wearing Birkenstocks with man buns and satchels to carry their discs in. That's what I think of the sport.
okay.
So I just need to know
There
about
are
it.
a lot of guys with big bags of discs for sure. Um, if there's like, and we'll let people play through. My brother and I, we're not slow players, we're not fast players. In a single, we'll easily be able to play through. And if we're behind like a foursome and a single comes up to us, but the foursome's playing at a reasonable rate, we'll play with the single player. And usually there is some conversation about the 3 or 4 local disc courses, as you asked. There you go. That does happen for sure.
And is 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 there a cart girl who drives around with a low cut blouse selling beer while you're doing disc golf?
No, there's nobody's around selling beer while we play disc golf uh, at the courses I've played at. There's nobody selling beer. There are people drinking beer. There are people enjoying the new New Jersey laws of marijuana legalization.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the culture. That's the culture that plays disc golf. The man bun, Birkenstock.
Right. But no one around driving beer. And I'm usually there pretty early because, I don't like the heat. So 8 o'clock in the morning, not like, oh my God, early, but a little early for beer, even for you, Ed.
So let's go with the don't like the heat. You ride a lot of bikes. So what do you only ride the bike at 6 in the morning? Tell me. I mean, it's hot when you ride a bike.
I get home by 10 or 11 every time. I only do 20 to 40 miles an hour to 3, depending. Plus,
20.
it's easier in the heat on a bike because there's wind than just walking around in the woods because I'm not like, oh my God, bugs. We discussed outdoors, but heat plus bugs and just walking through it can be a little annoying.
Yeah, you just brought something up there. You are in the woods when you're playing disc golf, and there's ticks there. So are most of the guys when they're wearing their Birkenstocks wearing like knee-high socks with those Birkenstocks?
Most of the guys are not in Birkenstocks. Most of the guys look like they're wearing athletic gear, whether it's shorts or sweats, and appropriate footwear with whatever they're wearing. I personally wear hiking pants and
Okay,
boots because it can be dewy and muddy, and I don't want to get my feet wet because I'm a wimp.
sure.
No.
Let me
You're
ask you
really
one more.
into disc golf questions. I'm
I
really.
am well because I have a lot of opinions about disc golfers. So, are cargo shorts still allowed? Like, is that like still in vogue in the disc golf community? Because they're kind of out in popular community. Like, you can't wear cargo shorts anymore, even though th're very practical. But can you wear them on the disc golf course?
I don't know, but you're asking me about what other people are wearing, and I'm not really aware of what other people are wearing. Nobody looks particularly like they're hippie. Like every now and again, you'll see someone who's like, "Oh, there's a granola person," and every other time, and then again, sometimes you see someone, "Wow, that dude thinks he's at the gym." But for the
Right.
most part, it's like regular sneakers, regular socks, shorts or long pants or sweats, sometimes hiking pants. I imagine there's people with cargo shorts because why wear your good shorts when you're out playing disc golf?
Yeah, you're being practical. So what you're basically ruining is my entire stereotype of disc golfer. So I'm actually not having fun with this conversation anymore. So I want to move on.
Let's move on.
Because I'm not being validated. So I want to share with you something else that happened while I was in Kentucky. So I told you I went to Churchill Downs, right? And I obviously watched a lot of basketball.
Did you see a race or did you just go to Churchill Downs?
So I just went to Churchill Downs because the ponies were not running. They actually stopped. They're taking a break until I think September. But I will tell you this: I went. There's a couple interesting things about this basketball tournament. One, Joe Girardi was in the house because he got fired, so he has some free time on his hands, and his daughter plays basketball. But the most interesting person I think there, from a public safety perspective, was Plaxico Burress. And they did not have metal detectors getting into the venue. So I was a little hesitant about, if the gun would fall out of his waistband again and randomly go off and not shoot his leg this time, but maybe shoot mine. So I did have my head on a swivel to see Plaxico's around.
So yeah, Plaxico Burress was possibly a gun. It was Kentucky. And Joe Girardi without a baseball bat to defend you from bullets.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a little crazy. But here's the thing: my welcome to Kentucky moment. We get to Kentucky, get out of the airport, and we go out to a restaurant. And this is, and again, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who have a saying. They'll text me or you, and the saying a lot of time is, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, because people are complaining that they think we're lying about them, which we're not. Every story we tell on this podcast about people we know is true. But in this case, so for those of you who think I lie, this is not a lie. This is God's honest truth. I'm sitting in the restaurant, and about 5 minutes in, this young gentleman sitting next to me, and I say young, he's probably early 30s, all tatted up. This guy's he's got neck tattoos. He's got tattoos on all his fingers, sleeves. I mean, all tatted up, right? And he leans over to me, and I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, what did I do to get this guy upset, right? And he says, hey, can I ask you a question? And don't laugh. Please don't laugh, but it's a serious question. I said, how many times have you been asked that in a restaurant before? Don't laugh, but I'm going to ask you a question. Sure, go ahead. I want to hear what the question is, and now I have to figure out how I'm going to keep a straight face. And I kid you not, you know what his question was, Obi? He says, how many states are there? 50 or 52? That was his question. So I looked at him, and I did not laugh. Saw the neck tattoos, figured, guy needs help. So I said, there's 50. And he says, well, then why is everybody on the internet talking about 52 states? Obi, do you know why a week ago everybody on the internet was talking about 52 states?
No.
Herschel Walker, the former running back, is running for senator, and he said in an interview there are 52 states in America. So, of course, everyone was on the internet making fun of Herschel Walker. This guy sees it and actually thinks, oh, shit, they added 2 states since I graduated high school, and I missed it. I kid you not. This was a conversation I had in a restaurant in Kentucky.
Well, maybe, let's just give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he knew, and he was just taking a random sampling of people to determine if Herschel Walker was an idiot or if America was idiots.
Well, he didn't know the Herschel Walker part, but he did have his wife or girlfriend with him, and there was a I told you so moment. So I think they were having an argument at the table about how many states there were, and he had to settle it. I'm not quite sure, though, who in that couple was adamant that it was 50 or was adamant it was 52. I'm not sure if it was her or him, but either way, he had the balls to ask, so you got to give him credit for that. And that was my public service for the day. I straightened somebody out. I probably should have told him who to vote for, too.
You may have wanted to tell him the earth was round while you were at it.
He was not wearing a Kyrie Irving jersey, so I did not think that was a problem. But, yeah. Has anybody ever asked you how many states there were in the country?
I mean, yeah, second grade.
Oh, and by the way, before anyone jumps to the conclusion he was visiting from another country, no. This guy was Kentucky. All right,
So
there's no immigration status on this guy. I guarantee it.
I got a question for you because I know you're going to let me down the way I let you down with not telling you that disc golf was granola. You're in Kentucky.
Yep.
Did you go on any of the Bourbon Trail at all? At least drink one.
No, I had no bourbon. But I hit 5. So I hit 5 breweries. So here's the thing about Louisville. Obviously, bourbon's huge there, but beer breweries are also very large. Like, unbeknown to me, because I was going for a basketball tournament, I did no research until I got there and figured out I got to get out of this hotel room and do something. That like you could like really make a really good trip out of just going to brewery after brewery after. There's a ton of them. Now, as far as the bourbon goes, I did walk by. I was on Bourbon Row in the morning. I was taking a walk with my wife because she does like to be around me. And there was this huge line out in front of one of the distilleries, and fire trucks were there. And so at first, my wife's like, "Oh, there must be a fire alarm, and they're all evacuated." And I'm like, "It's 8:30 in the morning. I doubt that many people were there to begin with to be evacuated." And then it looked like they're obviously on a queue. Some people had folding chairs they're sitting on, and come to find out, this this distillery, there was a big fire in Louisville in 2015 or something, and it burned part of this distillery, and some of the barrels got charred while the bourbon was still in it. And so each year they release a bourbon from those barrels, and because the firefighters, were so heroic in putting that fire out 7 years ago, they have the fire trucks there for the release because it's like a fireman's brew or whatever. Anyway, so that was a big deal. A lot of people excited about that. I was in one brewery. I was talking to a young waiter, and I said to him, "Hey, and there's a distillery right across the street, by the way, Angel's Envy. Have you heard of Angel's Envy?"
Love Angel's Envy. Big fan of Angel's Envy.
Okay, Angel's Envy. I never heard of it before, but it's right across the street, the distillery. I asked the waiter. I said, "So what can you tell me about the distilleries around here? Bourbon's a big thing." "Oh yeah, bourbon's a big thing, but I've never been to a distillery." I said, "Oh, what are you? You're not 21?" He goes, "Oh no, I'm 23. I just drink the cheap shit." I said, "All right, fair enough." I said, "Can you at least tell me?" I said, "Angel's Envy's across the street." He goes, "Yeah, that's a pretty famous one. You might want to check that out." I'm like, "All right."
Was he any more helpful with the menu?
He was helpful. This kid was also in downtown Louisville working at a restaurant wearing a Kentucky basketball jersey. And I said to him, I said, how does that help business? He goes, I don't care. I'm a Kentucky fan. My daddy raised me since I was 2 to be a Kentucky. That was my other experience with Kentucky, I guess.
For a show that we had no plan on, I think we're doing really good. And it's a shame because this leads me, by the way, to a completely left turn story about a trip I took to Cleveland. So I'm in
Ohio, Kentucky, very similar, I think, right?
Doesn't Ohio and Kentucky border each other? I
They
think
do. They do.
Yeah.
And so in Indiana's there. By the way, I could have walked over the river to Indiana, but I said, "What the hell's in Indiana?" And I turned around and walked back across the river.
Okay.
Not Jesus-like, by the way. I was on a bridge. I just want people to know. I don't want people to think I'm like Jesus, and I was actually walking on water across the river. That was
You're not Jesus, but I am an Adonis. We'll go with that.
Okay, that's it. If anybody takes anything away from this episode, that's what they'll take away.
Yes, great stuff. So we're in Cleveland. My wife and I, we go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We come out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in lake effect snow. There is about 2 feet of snow on the ground. We were in there for less than, however long you're in the Hall of Fame for. So we have to figure out how to get out of Cleveland and get home. And we realize we're not going to. So we pull over and we just find a bar and we're going to eat dinner and hang out there and wait out the snowstorm. And the only people in the bar are us and the regulars. Like regulars when you go to a bar and you see them and while they're all hanging out, in the middle of Cleveland, Ohio, this dude comes walking in with a Michigan sweatshirt on. I thought I was about to witness a murder. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun." And he just sits down. Turns out he was a regular, so I had to go and ask the guys at the bar. I'm like, "Excuse me, I'm not from around here, but shouldn't this guy be dead?" And they just all started laughing, like, "No," whatever their story was. But that's what that reminded me of.
They probably said, "What do you think? We're New Yorkers?"
Cleveland, Ohio, and Michigan. That's up there. I mean,
I don't
it's not
disagree
the
with
Red
you.
Sox and the Yankees, but
I don't disagree with you, but maybe the Michigan guy packed a bigger gun in his pants than the other regulars.
yeah, maybe. No, they were like, well, if it was anybody else, it's just, whatever. They obviously he was one of them. Just happened to be the one of them that was.
We went to a few places that my wife looked up on the internet, and you can only tell so much by looking at a website, right? And then you go there, or you pull into the neighborhood, and there's at least one place we pulled into the neighborhood where we thought this was. In fact, it was a liquor store. She's like, "Oh, it's a Bev World," because we have Bev Worlds here in Connecticut, and they're nice places. So we drive to this Bev World, and I pull up to it, and I literally said to my wife, "I am not going in there. That's the places people get robbed in." And we had to find another liquor store to go to. I was not going in that liquor store. No way in hell.
You would have when we used to hang out there. You would have gotten in there bravely.
Well, so there's a big difference. That liquor store also probably served underage people, so that's probably why I would have gone in there. But I'm now at a mature age where I enjoy my life, and I don't think I'm invincible because I don't ride my bike every day. I don't train in jiu-jitsu and swords, and I don't play disc golf, so I'm not in Adonis shape. So where the hell am I going to run from? So I'm not even getting out of the car in those situations.
I would just like to set the record straight. I do not do jujitsu. I just play with swords.
Okay, that's your martial arts training. But
Yes.
if anybody was paying attention, they would know that bears can also play with swords.
They cannot.
They can. It's on the internet. It's true if it's on the internet.
Well, then I'm in trouble.
And a matter of fact, I saw that same bear on the internet playing with a lightsaber. And that's got to be true too because it was on the internet.
Well, lightsabers are much more dangerous than bears.
Well, I would agree.
Especially if you try to shoot one. But we are getting very far astray. And I think it's time we wrap this episode up. Like I said before, this is an episode we barely had time to plan. And we did really well. So maybe that feedback was right. Because, the charm is that we suck.
Oh, wait. We can't stop. Oh. I got one other thing. I'm sorry. I know. I listen, this is part of sucking. But listen, I traveled, right? We talked about the travel a little bit. I just got to get this. This show is about cranky old men. I got to get this off my chest. You go on a plane, right? And you land, and you get to the gate, and the bell goes off, beep, and you can take everyone takes their seatbelt off at the same time, right? That is not a signal to get up from the last row in the plane and sprint to the front of the plane. That's not how it works. If you're in the last row of the plane, you get off last. It just sucks that you're there. I'm sorry for it, but you don't run because you know what happens to those people that run? They get stuck in the middle of the plane every time anyway because everyone else gets up. They just beat a couple people, and then they look like assholes. And so that's all my message is, Obi. I just got off a plane recently, and the people, they do it, and I either say to myself, have they never flown before and they just don't get it, or are they an asshole? Right? It's one of the two things.
It's that they're an asshole, but I'm going to defend this asshole behavior. In their head, they're catching another flight and they got to be fast. So that's why they're an asshole. They're an asshole because they're nervous. They're like, I got to get to my other flight. I can't get held up on this flight. That's what's going on in their heads. I'm willing to...
But if that's true, all they have to do is get word out ahead of time. I have another flight. Please let me off. And I've seen people let people off early. I've seen it. But when you just sneak attack people, that pisses people off.
Yeah, but there you go. That's the way not to be the asshole. I'm not saying they're not being an asshole. I'm just explaining why I think they're behaving like an asshole. And there you go. Excuse me, I have another flight. Can you please let me through? Excuse me, I have another flight. Can you
Yes.
please let me through?
Yes.
Yeah. And
All
there,
right.
and then
I just had to end with that because I was so fired up, and I said as I'm on the plane, I got to talk about this with Obi. So,
well, I'm glad you interrupted my perfect close for that. That was a good story, and it's definitely something to be cranky about. So it's okay that we suck and can't end on time, right? Ever. But
there
that's
goes-
who we
there
are.
goes-
We're drinking from the garden hose.
yeah, and there goes
I'm
your
Obi.
perfect ending.
That said, charm is that we suck.
Yeah, and you got a bike to go ride.